Whole bunch of stuff.
Opening doors.
Yeah.
Right.
All
That's
unfortunate.
Hey, we have a name.
I looked it up.
You didn't look it up. That's the one.
Right.
That is the definition.
So if I
Hi, happy Monday. Did anyone grow up around Christian youth groups? I think the only thing scarier than the right-wing QAnon Christians that we come across today are the Christian high school boys that meet every single Wednesday for youth group. More specifically, high school Christian boys that all believe they've amassed the knowledge of a fully grown adult while only being 15 years old. Brent, do you mind going ahead and praying for the group? I got you, Mateo. Almighty Lord, I just want to pray for all the relationships in the group today. Earlier this week, I got Savannah's Snapchat, and I just have been feeling you speak to me and hearing you telling me that I need to, get closer to her so I can bring her closer to you. Even though Jeremiah told me he really likes her, I put my full trust in you, God. I feel like you're really telling me to go for it. Amen. If we want to take this one step further, I'd say that the spiritual man-boy hybrids are even worse if you age them up to fully grown adults while also giving them every single characteristic that made them a child in the first place. Are you confused right now? I am too. Let me explain. Remember Big Nick? His name is sort of funny because he's actually small, right? After being harassed out of David Dobrik's group, as you do, he turned to God and started making his whole brand about being a God-fearing influencer. He's probably what you expect if aliens came down to Earth and just possessed a bunch of humans to convince people to join their religion. That's Big Nick. I'll show you some of his TikToks so you know what I'm talking about.
You see, Jesus already did that for us. We all deserve death and punishment for sinning against God. But Jesus took that punishment for us. And the devil's trying to snatch as many souls as possible so you can't live your full potential.
Now, this experiment gone wrong of a Christian and a YouTuber takes a new turn when Big Nick decides to make a podcast with some of his Christian content creator friends. I came across this podcast when it was sent to me by Megan Dunn on Instagram, and I knew I had to investigate it. By the way, how's the new apartment? Also, by the way, 1/3 of people watching this video are not subscribed, so I'll give you a second. I'm gonna stare really hard, and you're gonna subscribe. So this podcast is a podcast hosted by 5 overly confident Christian men who have a lot to say about masculinity and feminism. Something that I feel like is missing from a lot of the conversations that we hear online, am I right? Okay, let's talk about our hosts. First, you've got Titus, who sells t-shirts that promote election fraud conspiracies. You've got Isaac, whose whole personality is being a token black conservative man who racist white Republicans can point to when you call them racist.
Incredible. One of the worst performances of my career, and they never doubted it for a second.
You've got John Michael, who is our heartthrob musician who makes weird Minecraft music TikToks.
No way! Leaving all the rose petals in the meadows where they belong. In a rush, I'm not in a rush. I'm not in a rush to fall in love. Let's go! Are you kidding me? Okay, you have to go listen now. Oh my god!
You've got Gabe, who's our 20-year-old TikTok sensation who makes weird duets with his friend named Dean, who looks like he's seconds away from melting.
God still speaks. Hey, hit that copy and share button. Let's push this one out. He said 2 words to me that changed my life. He said, call mom.
And then you've got Big Nick, who you'd expect to be the main host of this podcast, but he ends up saying almost nothing, and when he does, he gets cut off by one of the other guys almost immediately. Oh yeah, did I mention that there's way too many guys hosting this podcast? Almost every single one of them doesn't know how to wait their turn until they speak, so it just results in Titus, Gabe, and John Michael kind of just talking to each other the whole time, leaving Big Nick and Isaac mostly out of the conversation. If you want to know what I'm talking about, Joe, run that clip.
Guys, thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to talk about masculinity, self-confidence,
sexism,
whole bunch of stuff.
Opening doors.
Is opening doors for a woman sexist?
I don't know. I think.
Hey guys.
Basically,
what we're gonna do is we're gonna mansplain to you. So tune in.
So
it's
watch
gonna
out.
be a great time.
Get ready.
All right, guys. We'll see you.
So yeah, this whole thing kind of just results in Titus, Gabe, and John Michael talking the entire time. The podcast starts off with a funny joke about how holding doors for women is sexist now, which it's not. I don't think anyone ever seriously made that claim.
PSA announcement. Gabe actually doesn't just like blondes anymore. He also likes Latinas.
Yes.
Yo, I trained him, bro. I trained
He
him.
trained him. Hey,
I
he has
trained him.
trained me well. Train your boy in the way they
Hey,
should go, right?
I'm proud of you.
Then John Michael forgets how acronyms work by saying PSA announcement. He also decides to tell people that Gabe likes Latinas, which turns into a big laugh where Titus also forgets how acronyms work. And then Gabe ends up clarifying that he doesn't actually like Latinas. He just likes white women, I guess.
Also, a PSA announcement, that was a lie. He still loves blondes.
Yeah, it's just blondes.
The guys now decide to explain to us why their podcast is called Mansplain.
We absolutely do.
We have a name of the podcast,
Yes.
and we said it at the beginning, but it's Mansplained.
Mansplaining,
Titus,
guys.
would you like to talk about why that's not an offensive name?
John Michael decides to tell Titus to explain why it's not an offensive name, which is a weird thing to say about a name that apparently isn't offensive.
It's basically just a
can look
man
up to
explaining
Google.
something to someone, and it's apparently condescending because man can't explain things to people now because of this feminism movement of nonsense where men can't do anything and women are always right.
Right.
Titus explains how this nonsense feminist movement is trying to make women always right and how men can't explain anything to people anymore because it's always condescending, which is something Titus probably believes because when he talks, people probably say that he sounds condescending.
The Google definition, it technically says it's in a derogatory way or whatever, but that's or condescending. Yeah. So, but that's up to interpretation. Like if a woman felt like it was offensive, it's offensive. Then it's offensive. It doesn't matter if you were intending it or not. It's just like
It's that.
Isaac goes on to explain that it's not just explaining, but it's in a derogatory manner. But apparently it's just up to interpretation, and that if a woman thinks what I said is derogatory and offensive, then it's just offensive now? That's not fair. I should be able to decide when things I say are offensive or not. The person who hears it shouldn't be able to tell me that they're offended. That doesn't count.
if something is derogatory or offensive, you could just call it derogatory. You don't have to say mansplaining. So if someone is condescending, just say it's condescending. You don't have to associate their sex with their
especially
actions.
with the men,
That
yeah.
is the definition of sexism.
Let me put something in
Anyone that
perspective.
uses
we're going in
mansplaining
hard to
to
start.
criticize others is being sexist themselves.
Gabe goes on to pretend like he made some profound point about the definition of sexism by saying that attaching someone's gender to their actions is sexist in itself, as if someone's identity doesn't play a role in how they treat others. Oh, you think Uncle John is treating a minority like shit because he's a white racist scumbag? You can't attach his race to his actions? That's racist in itself. The guys act like this opinion has validity and then proceed to point out that Gabe is only 20 years old and he's so smart.
Can we just point out how amazing that 20-year-old Gabe just spit that hot fire right there?
No, I can tell Gabe is 20 years old. He doesn't know how to say the word condescending.
Condescending.
Big Nick takes a complete left turn and then asks a question that only a 14-year-old middle schooler would ask.
Oh, mic drop.
If I go to Subway and there's a female worker there and I ask her to make me a sandwich, is that offensive now?
Straight white Christian males do what straight white Christian males will do and act like being straight, white Christian, and a male is now offensive in our society.
Says the straight white male.
Fire.
And it's sexism.
You're
That's
literally a
sexism.
straight
Oh, my
white
bad.
male.
I'm a straight white male.
Yeah,
so
like
I
what
can't
the
say
heck?
that.
Like,
I'm sorry.
sit
And
down.
and you're a Christian?
Then Gabe makes a joke about not posting a black square to his Instagram to support Black Lives Matter, and Titus seems confused.
And I didn't post my black square to my Instagram stories. Okay.
Gabe,
really?
okay. Gabe from TikTok.
Then they all begin to explain why they don't want to be pressured to post a black square in their Instagram for Black Lives Matter, by also explaining that they were pressured to post a black square to their Instagram in support of Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, I did post I posted my black rectangle on my story because I didn't know what
I
was
did on
happening.
the story too. I did
Yeah,
on the
because I was like, all right, let me just make sure I
did
don't
on
get
the
like.
story.
They start discussing how dominant men should be, and then Nick makes an interesting comment about how if he's working all day, then his wife should be doing the dishes by the time he gets home.
Look, if I get home from, if I'm like working like a long day and like there's still dishes in the sink, like, I was kidding.
He's not kidding. That's a funny thing.
Usually if you're kidding and your friend follows it up by saying, oh, but he's not kidding though, then you're probably not kidding. Gabe also praises John Michael for his captivating statement about how women should look to their husband the same way they look to Jesus Christ.
Well, I was just going to say, on the last episode, you said something really remarkable. You said that men desire honor. And so I think in these families, when the wife can honor her husband like she would honor Jesus, that really represents an amazing picture of like how it's supposed to work.
Then we see this Christian podcast turn into a conversation about gaining a social media following, which is a little weird.
I started doing YouTube. I started doing TikTok. And now I have 200,000 followers on TikTok. I'm growing. And then in YouTube, I get 30 million views on a video. I'm on 110,000 subscribers. And now I want to beat Gabe, but not like I want.
Which you probably will at this rate.
Well, they even end it by making this offhanded comment that Titus will probably pass up Gabe in followers, which immediately makes him cut in to say something about it. Titus starts to get a little too excited about grinding, which seems a little off-brand for these clean-cut Christian boys.
But I'm like, nah, this dude's grinding. And so when I made the decision for myself that I want to grind, I knew exactly what to emulate to do that. And so I'm doing that, and here I am, and he's watching that, and he's like seeing me do what he's doing and inspiring him to do that again.
Exactly.
And now he's like, I need to start grinding again. And now that you're here, we're gonna grind together.
Yeah.
They randomly start using the term loopy as if it's just this common term in, Christian slang, which it's not.
Loopiness. Loopy.
John Michael starts talking about how him promoting a music video actually led someone to Jesus.
I'll be on a live stream, like talking about a music video I'm putting out. And this happened just the other day, and a guy's like, how do I give my life to Christ? This is so real, and I want to be a part of this.
Wow.
And I'm like,
and how
sweet. And so I let them to Christ.
Is that?
And then Titus takes this podcast in a crazy direction where we will probably be for the rest of the episode, which is talking about his opinion that no man should be in a platonic relationship with a woman who is not his wife, and vice versa.
I have a video on YouTube where I talk about how I don't believe in platonic friendships with the opposite sex.
What do you think about that, John Michael?
John Michael decides to weigh in by saying this.
I think you cannot be friends with a girl in the way that you can be friends with a guy, but you can still be friends. But it has to look different.
Just say you can't be friends with women. It's not that complicated. Once you start worrying this much about the gender of someone when you start talking to them, you need to find help.
Because the definition of platonic is an intimate relationship. The only thing, again, different from actual relationship is there's no sex or no sexual things. That's what platonic is. And so I'm not trying to have a platonic relationship with any woman, because by the time I get married and I have this deep connection with all these random women that are my friends, my wife's not going to like that.
According to Titus, once you find a wife, she won't be super happy when she finds out that you have friends who are girls, I guess. You don't have a deep connection with all these random women. You have friends. Those are friends you're talking about. And if your wife has an issue with that, that's something you need to address your wife about, not yourself. This is where we get a red hot fire take from John Michael. Also, why does he have two names? I don't know.
Is there such thing as like emotional sex?
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
I think there is. And I think
I love how John Michael's opinion gets like a resounding yes from the other guys. There's different types of wellness. You got physical, emotional, spiritual. You can't just mix the two and call something emotional sex. I think sex would be considered physical vulnerability, and then the other thing would be emotional vulnerability. I don't think you would call that emotional sex. There's nothing wrong with opening up emotionally to another human being. That's what being human's about. You don't need to date a girl in order to open yourself up to someone of a different gender. Titus starts to make this comparison from emotional sex to actual physical sex, but then quickly realizes that not everyone there has had sex.
It's worse. It's almost, well, I don't know if it's worse, but because not everyone here is. Anyways, so I think it's like.
So then he makes this weird side comment about how not everyone's going to know what he's talking about, and then just like continues on.
Anyways,
Titus quickly moves back into his whole I can't be friends with a girl stance by saying that if he's friends with a girl, then once he gets a girlfriend, she'll be uncomfortable with the fact that he's friends with other girls.
I've recently come to this conclusion that I don't believe in platonic friendships with the opposite sex, but like I've always to an extent done that. I don't think platonic friendships are important for many reasons. If I'm getting in a relationship and I create this super deep relationship connection with some other girl, and then I start getting in a relationship. One, the girl I'm talking to, like, why are you so close to this person? That makes me feel uncomfortable.
If you have a mature relationship with someone, you're going to understand that they had friends that existed before they knew you, or even became friends during. Being friends with people that are a different gender is a normal thing, and it shouldn't affect the way you communicate with them. And I think if it does, then that's an issue that you need to figure out with yourself. Now let's hear Isaac's story about how he went through this exact thing.
I remember specifically I had a situation in my life where I was really good friends with this girl, and maybe she was more really good friends with me than I was with her, but we were pretty close. And like we were friends for almost a year and a half, and then later on, I started dating her friend, a really close friend of hers.
Oh, no.
And I went and told her about it, and she was, like, devastated, like, very upset about it. And I was, like, confused because I'm like, I thought you would be happy for me, like, we've been friends, but no, it was because we had that emotional connection, or at least she thought we had that, and she was, like, expecting more.
I can guarantee you that's not how the story happened. What he should have said was, I led a girl on and played her, and then she got upset when I started dating someone out of nowhere. Any normal person who has a deep relationship with another person would not act this way if they started dating someone else. There's no doubt that in that story there was something that was not the way it seems that resulted in that. This isn't middle school. This is not how normal life works.
I told you this yesterday. Someone always wants more.
Someone doesn't always want more, Titus. That person is you. When you're in a friendship with a girl, you think that it has to be romantic because they're the opposite gender. Gabe talks about how guys sometimes can't feel like they can be emotional around other guys, which is a real issue. Here's what he said about it.
A lot of guys feel like they can't be themselves around guys. They can't talk about their emotions. They can't cry. They can't jam out to music or like just do whatever. And they feel like maybe around girls that they can be more on their more emotional side.
And I feel like that's because of this.
Is that a thing that guys don't feel like they can jam out to music around other guys? Also, why does Nick pop this piece of gum in his mouth so aggressively? Titus goes on to talk about how women are unnecessary in life if they aren't going to marry you, because you can get all of the benefits of a relationship from the men in your life.
Anything a man goes through, they can get from another male friend. Like, I don't see why you would ever need to have all these female counterparts.
Seems a little gay. That's a sin. Watch out.
And also, for men specifically, and this might sound like a little bad or controversial, but like, if for guys that are friends with girls a lot of times are leading guys on. Like all the guys that are in the friend zone are just being led on by girls.
Yeah. The way they talk about girls leading guys on and the friend zone is literally the way that 14-year-olds talk about it. There's nothing about this conversation that makes me feel like I'm listening to a bunch of grown men talking. Let's hear about John Michael's experience of opening up to another girl.
I can hang out with a girl and it's like everything's cool, but there's a boundary that only you know inside of your own mind that's like,
very true.
Okay, like that's probably as much you should share about your childhood and all these ambitions and things that you like have in your mind, you know, before it gets like, because then the girl's gonna get confused and she's gonna be like, oh, we're talking now.
Yeah, he likes me.
Yeah.
Which,
when is opening up to someone emotionally ever meant that you are now in a romantic relationship with them? I don't think I've ever opened up to a girl and have her thought, wow, he just told me about all these struggles that he's gone through in his life. I think he likes me.
Diluted the word friend. Like, we use it too flippantly. Like, we call everyone our friend. Like, oh, yeah, those are all my church friends. But in reality, they're not.
I've never heard of a group of people so confused about what a friend is than I have in this conversation. And trust me, it only gets worse. Guys, just be around people. And if you think they're your friend, call them your friend. And if you don't, then don't. It's really, I promise you, it's not that serious. Remember when I said it only gets worse about 3 seconds ago? Well, this is when it gets worse. John Michael comes up with this super convoluted way of rating his friends, and then he proceeds to rate his friends.
Be honest, like, what would you put?
Gabe's like, what am I to you?
I mean,
like a
to
6,
Nick,
7?
to Nick, because I've known him for like 5.5 seconds, Nick would probably be like a 2. Gabe probably like maybe a 3. Isaac, you're probably a 3 too, just because that's how long I've known y'all. No. Titus, maybe more like a 4 or 5 with Titus because we spent more time together.
Yeah. How is your closest friend in this group of people in this conversation about how close men can be in relationships? How is he only a 4? Is this guy so emotionally removed that he cannot give any of his friends a 5 or higher on his weird scale? They have to pivot back to why we can't be friends with girls. And then they say if you're going to hang out with a girl who's just your friend, then you should just go hang out with your guy friends instead, because, you know, there's nothing to gain from her.
And that's going to take away time. You don't need to spend time with all these girls. If you are going to spend time with friends, why not spend time with other men that are going to help the kid? Like, what we're
right, because a deep man friendship you can have forever. But as soon as you get in a dating relationship, engaged, marriage,
gone.
Boof.
And then I guess once you get married, you're supposed to start boofing with your spouse?
Boof.
Back to platonic friendships. Not a fan of it.
You didn't have to tell me twice, Titus.
Like, I'm not saying like you can't bring value to each other. Like, you work together. Like, sometimes a woman is your secretary if you're working somewhere, or like you're working, whatever.
Oh, so you can talk to a woman if she's your personal secretary, but not if she's not paid to be near you. Now Isaac and the boys are going to teach us about gay people.
They're in like TV shows and movies, like you can't see just really good friends between guys anymore. You don't see that. It's just like you'll see a guy get close to a guy and then all of a sudden they're gay, you know? It's like you don't see true guy
same-sex affection
anymore.
is not the same as same-sex attraction.
Yeah, exactly.
How profound is that? No TV shows have close guy friends unless they end up being gay with each other? I don't think I have to pull up examples of the last 20 years of TV to prove that that's just not true at all. Okay, we're almost to the end, I promise. Next up, Nick tries to talk for maybe the third time over the entirety of this 40-minute podcast, just to get steamrolled by Gabe getting excited about square dancing.
There is power in unity of men, right? I mean, men are
1,000%.
Men are a part of a strong civilization and society.
I mean, we went two-step dancing. We walked up in there, three of us.
Man, when you got your wingmen with
There
you,
was,
it's like, no stopping us.
No, that is a perfect point, because I was telling Titus.
They end the circus by patting themselves on the back for how great they did during this episode of the podcast, where John Michael and Titus basically just talked about how they can't have friends who are girls for 40 minutes.
I'm really glad about all the things that we covered. This has been really good. I think this is gonna be helpful for a lot of people.
Agreed.
So.
I think so.
It's interesting how you start with what you think your idea is going to be, and then when you see where it kind of goes, and it's like, okay, this is actually way better.
So that's Mansplain. Well, the second episode. The first episode, they didn't even have a name for the podcast yet, and I didn't even realize it was out. And then the third episode is just about some backlash they received from the first and second episodes. I haven't watched much of it because the first one was painful enough to go through, but this is the one clip I clicked to just when I jumped in to see what it was all about.
And to all the beta male white knights out there that made responses to these videos, hey man, she's not going to DM you, bro. Let it go.
Oh my God.
But Nick, they were standing up for women.
She's not going to DM you because you took something Titus said out of context when we are clearly saying we don't want a woman who is engaging in multiple sexual relations with random men that they met.
have sexual
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Nick just saved this entire podcast.
Like,
Whoa, Nick really got us. I'm not really sure what he was trying to say, but the other guys seemed to eat it up. Mansplain is probably the shittiest Avengers movie I've ever seen. And I hate that I have to show their channel to more people because it's not really doing great as of right now. And I think I know why. Amongst all the talk about how they can't have friends who are girls and how feminism is nonsense, it was really boring. You know, I showed you what I wanted to make fun of, but in a 40-minute podcast, it's mostly filled with useless small talk about how all of this stuff that they believe is normal, it's not normal. And that's what I have to say about that. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you did, as I said before, 1/3 of you are not even subscribed, so you should do that. And if you are subscribed, then ring the little notification bell. It's free. I am at nickisnotgreen on all social media. If you got to the end of the video, go to my latest Instagram post and comment, "Hey Nick, loved that new video. You looked good. ... This week's Gamer of the Week is Simon Samir. If you want to be the next Gamer of the Week, just comment on the video down below. All right, thanks again for watching. Try not to make a podcast with your friends. Have a good week.
August, Kirsten Hayes, Amelia right now, Robin Graves, Gabby Essence Green, Nick Binks, Megan Harvey, the tier 3 patrons. They got it, they got it, they got it, oh, and thank you to the tier 1 and 2, baby, I couldn't do it without you.